When Innocence Meets Horror Shocking True Stories, Part 2. Hey everyone, welcome back to the archives. I'm Brittany, and I'm thrilled to have you here with me again. Today, we're diving back into the dark side of human nature, exploring more cases where innocence is shattered by unthinkable acts. These stories are not for the faint of heart. We'll be looking at stories that will chill you to the bone, stories that force us to confront the uncomfortable realities of our world. From haunted houses to foggy graveyards, the eerie settings only add to the horror. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on future uploads. We have a lot more chilling content coming your way. And as always, listener discretion is advised. Some of these stories contain graphic details that may be disturbing. Some of the details in these cases are disturbing and may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. But before we begin, I want to say thank you. Your support and engagement mean everything to me. Thank you for being here, for listening, for engaging with these stories that need to be told. Your curiosity and empathy drive me to keep sharing these important narratives. Your support means the world. Together, we can shed light on the darkest corners of human experience. Kendrick Johnson, 17 years old, full of life, a bright future ahead of him. Kendrick was a talented athlete, known for his dedication and sportsmanship. He was last seen alive entering the gymnasium at Lowndes High School in Valdosta, Georgia, on a seemingly ordinary January day in 2013. But Kendrick never walked out. His disappearance sparked immediate concern among his friends and family. The next day, his body was discovered. The scene was chaotic, with police and investigators swarming the gym, folded, almost impossibly, inside a rolled-up gym mat. The discovery was both shocking and baffling. The image is seared into my mind, the sheer improbability of it. How could this happen? How could a young man end up in such a position? The official explanation, a freak accident. The authorities were quick to provide a narrative. Kendrick, they said, fell into the mat while reaching for a shoe and suffocated. Case closed. But the simplicity of this explanation raised eyebrows. But for Kendrick's family, the explanation never added up. They knew Kendrick, and they knew something was terribly wrong. The evidence, they argued, just didn't support it. There were too many inconsistencies, too many unanswered questions. So they pressed for answers, for a deeper investigation. They wanted the truth, no matter how painful it might be. An independent autopsy was conducted, and the findings were startling. The results contradicted the initial reports. Blunt force trauma to Kendrick's neck. This was no accident. The medical examiner's conclusion? Homicide. The revelation sent shockwaves through the community. The case became a tangled web of conflicting accounts, suspicious evidence, and allegations of a cover-up. The more they dug, the murkier it became. Was Kendrick's death a tragic accident or something far more sinister? The questions linger, unanswered. The truth seemed just out of reach. What happened to Kendrick Johnson? The community rallied, demanding justice and transparency. It's a question that continues to haunt his family, his community, and anyone who hears the details of this deeply unsettling case. The search for answers goes on as the memory of Kendrick Johnson endures. Indianapolis, 1965. A city unaware of the darkness brewing within one of its neighborhoods. Sylvia Likens, a vibrant teenager full of life and dreams, was left in the care of Gertrude Banaszewski, a seemingly ordinary housewife, while her parents were away, working with a traveling carnival. Little did they know, they were entrusting their daughter to a monster, a woman whose facade of normalcy hid a deeply disturbed mind. Behind the closed doors of the Banaszewski home, a nightmare unfolded, one that would leave an indelible mark on all who heard of it. Sylvia became the target of Gertrude's twisted rage and sadism, a scapegoat for her frustrations and anger. She was subjected to unimaginable cruelty, beaten, starved, burned, and psychologically tormented. The abuse was relentless and escalated with each passing day. But the horror doesn't end there. The walls of that house bore witness to unspeakable acts. Gertrude's own children, along with neighborhood kids, were not only allowed but encouraged to participate in the abuse, turning Sylvia's suffering into a grotesque form of entertainment. Sylvia became their plaything, a human punching bag for their darkest impulses, her cries for mercy falling on deaf ears. Days turned into weeks. her cries for help drowned out by the indifference of those around her. The isolation and despair she felt were unimaginable. Neighbors aware of the abuse turned a blind eye, paralyzed by fear or apathy. The community's silence was deafening. By the time authorities were finally alerted, it was too late. The damage had been done, and Sylvia's fate was sealed. Sylvia, her young body broken beyond repair, succumbed to her injuries. Her death was a tragic end to a life filled with potential. The details of her suffering, revealed during the trial, shocked the nation. The courtroom was filled with gasps and tears as the extent of the cruelty was laid bare. How could such depravity occur? How could a community allow such evil to fester unchecked? How could so many stand by and do nothing? The questions lingered, haunting those who had failed to act. Sylvia Likens' story is a chilling reminder of the capacity for human cruelty and the devastating consequences of silence. Her memory serves as a call to action, urging us to speak out against injustice and protect the vulnerable. Chapter 3: 44 Days of Hell. The Torment of Junko Furuta. The story of Junko Furuta is not for the faint of heart. It's a descent into the darkest recesses of human cruelty, a case that continues to haunt Japan decades later. Picture this: Tokyo, 1988. Junko, a bright and bubbly 17-year-old, is abducted by 4 teenage boys. What followed was 44 days of unimaginable torture, a living hell orchestrated by her captors. Junko was held captive in a nondescript house, her screams for help muffled by the walls. Her abductors, consumed by a terrifying blend of boredom, sadism, and a complete lack of empathy, subjected her to unspeakable acts of violence and degradation. They beat her, burned her, and assaulted her repeatedly. They forced her to eat cockroaches and drink her own urine. They extinguished cigarettes on her skin, her once vibrant spirit slowly crumbling under the weight of their cruelty. What makes this case even more disturbing is the complicity of others. Neighbors, hearing Junko's cries, chose to ignore them, too afraid to intervene. The boys, emboldened by their impunity, escalated their reign of terror. Junko's ordeal finally ended on January 4, 1989, when her battered body, barely recognizable, was found encased in concrete. Her death sent shockwaves through Japan, exposing a chilling undercurrent of violence and indifference within their society. The case led to widespread outrage and calls for justice, but the sentences handed down to her tormentors were shockingly lenient, sparking further controversy and debate about the Japanese legal system's handling of juvenile crime. Chapter 4: The Chilling Case of Mary Bell. A Child Takes a Life. The year was 1968. The place, Newcastle, England. A seemingly idyllic town was about to be shaken by a crime so horrific, so unfathomable, that it would forever be etched in its history. The murder of 2 young boys, Martin Brown and Brian Howe, both under the age of 5. But it wasn't just the murders that sent chills down the spines of seasoned investigators. It was the age of the perpetrator. Mary Bell, a seemingly ordinary 11-year-old girl, was responsible for taking those innocent lives. Mary's crimes weren't impulsive acts of passion. She lured the boys away separately, strangled them with her bare hands, and left haunting notes at the crime scenes, taunting police with chilling nonchalance. During her trial, Mary's demeanor was as perplexing as the crimes themselves. She showed little remorse, her flat affect and detached demeanor fueling public speculation about her mental state. Was she a psychopath, a product of a broken home, or were there other, darker forces at play? Her mother, a known prostitute, was often absent, leaving Mary in a chaotic environment. Despite the gravity of her crimes, Mary was deemed not evil but wicked, a child capable of rehabilitation. She was sentenced to detention but released at the age of 23, given a new identity, a chance at a fresh start. Her story remains one of the most disturbing and complex cases in criminal history. Chapter 5: Unfathomable Cruelty. The James Bulger Case. The abduction and murder of 2-year-old James Bulger in 1993 shocked the United Kingdom. The nation was horrified by the senseless brutality inflicted on such an innocent child. The image of James being led away from a Liverpool shopping centre captured on CCTV is unforgettable. It remains one of the most haunting images in British criminal history. The shock deepened when it was revealed that the perpetrators were two 10-year-old boys. The innocence of the attackers added another layer of horror to the crime. John Venables and Robert Thompson lured James away, leading him to a brutal end. Their actions were premeditated and chillingly calculated. They tortured him and left his body on a railway track. The details of their cruelty were almost too much to bear. The trial ignited debates about juvenile justice and the nature of evil. It raised questions about how society should deal with such young offenders. John and Robert became the youngest convicted murderers in modern British history. Their trial was a media sensation, drawing intense public scrutiny. They were released at 18 with new identities, but questions linger. The case continues to provoke strong emotions and debate to this day. The uncomfortable truth. These stories are difficult to hear, I know. They pierce through the veil of our everyday lives. They challenge our faith in humanity, making us question the very fabric of our society, force us to confront the darkness that lurks beneath the surface. It's a darkness we often choose to ignore, but they are stories that need to be told. Stories that demand our attention and empathy. We owe it to the victims, to their families, to never forget. Their pain and suffering should not be in vain. If you found this video thought-provoking, if it stirred something within you, please consider giving it a thumbs up. Your engagement helps us continue this important work and sharing it with your friends. Spread the word. Let these stories be heard far and wide. Your support helps keep this channel going, allowing us to delve deeper into these narratives and allows these stories to reach a wider audience. The more people know, the more we can collectively make a difference. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Stay connected with us so you don't miss out on future uploads. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe. Thank you for watching.